There is no comparison between the atrocities that are being committed against the Jews and self-defense that's being unleashed against the Palestinians in Gaza City. Israel is facing elimination and annihilation. We've been watching over the course of more than a week now, within our own country, that we have a very, very grave problem. 20 years ago, 25 years ago, maybe even 15 years ago, we would not have seen institutions, even like our colleges and universities, or certain cable programs and networks, even certain newspapers, that would actually take the side of the enemy. Oh, it's happened in the past, there's no question about that, but not so ubiquitous as it is today. We have a media in this country that, of course, as we've talked about at length, is an appendage of the Democrat Party. And this is part of the problem. Our universities and colleges basically raise mentally, ideologically Democrats. And the Democrat Party is a party that is an umbrella party to various Marxist movements. The Democrat Party, as I've written before, as I've said before, and I've written in my book, The Democrat Party Hates America, is alien. It's really an alien entity to this country. It rejects our unalienable rights. It rejects our founding document, the Declaration, which is based mostly on Lockean philosophy, the philosophy of liberty. It rejects the Constitution, which is based in significant ways on Montesquieu's philosophy, divided government in order to prevent a centralized, monstrous sort of government, dictatorship, and yet a government that represents the people in certain ways. So we don't have pure mobocracy and pure democracy, but we have a representative republic. Our declaration is a declaration of human liberty. It's really based on biblical views, that truth comes from God, that there are essential truths. They're not made by man, and they are what they are. That is, that murder is evil, and life is good. The Constitution is based on a construct that says men are imperfect. And so, since you have imperfect men, you must have a system of government that protects the people from imperfect men in power, whether elected or appointed. So it's all put together for the purpose of promoting your freedom, your security, equal justice, not equity, equal justice, a faith in God, and those sorts of things that most of us were raised to believe. Well, we have a movement in our country that is destroying that. And it's not just a movement in our country, it's a movement in many countries. And unfortunately, the most radical of the Marxist elements within our country also are, as one might expect, the most anti-Semitic. You see, Marxists have never liked Jews. Communists don't like Jews. Now, that's not the only autocracy that has that ideology. Obviously, the Third Reich, fascism. This is one of the reasons I feel so blessed to live in this country, Jewish and an American. And I hold tightly to the Declaration and those principles, and I hold tightly to the Constitution of the United States. And I use this platform and every platform I can to defend what we have in this country. Because without it, evil, just impoverishment, and yes, genocide. And so we have elements in this country that believe in genocide. You have Palestinians and pro-Palestinian protesters who have protested with the swastika, a swastika flag, who have signs saying, "Eradicate the Jews." And this is not just a one-off in one city, maybe New York. No, it's in New York. It's in cities in Florida. It's in LA. It's in the Midwest. It's on our university campuses. The Students for Palestine is really a front group for Hamas and the other radical organizations, and yet they have clubs or organizations, if you will, on virtually every college campus. Most notably, Ivy League schools, but also schools like the University of Virginia. And so they try, and number one, the soft ones among them, to create a moral equivalence between good and evil. That is, the Jewish people in Israel who want to get along with their neighbors, there would be 2 states in 2 seconds if they thought they'd be safe. But they're not safe. And the remnants of the Third Reich, the remnants of prior regimes, prior empires, whether it's the Persians, the Babylonians, the Romans, the Ottoman Empire, even British occupation for a period of time, and now Iran and the surrounding Nazi militia that they've created in Hezbollah and Hamas, Islamic Jihad, and on and on and on. These are the modern Nazis that are trying to create a second Holocaust. 6 million Jews were killed during the Holocaust. At that time, half of the Jewish population. They weren't just killed, they were slaughtered in horrific ways. Ovens, burned alive, gas chambers, mass slaughter, buried alive, you name it. You name it. The American media was silent. Up until 1944, I've written about this at length in On Freedom of the Press. Silent. I've written about it at length in American Marxism. I've talked about it at length. Because I don't want this to ever happen again, but it's starting to happen. So these voices of Nazism, these voices of Palestinian terrorism, they're getting more and more prominent in the United States. They have a home in the Democrat Party among these so-called democratic socialists, which is a Marxist group that raises enormous amounts of money to fund like-minded candidates. And that's why Tlaib and Omar, AOC and Bowman and all the rest have gone from either drawing equivalence between good and evil, or even beyond that Israel is evil, and Israel, the slaughter that you've seen and are seeing involving Israel, is Israel's fault. It's the fault of the Jews. Tlaib, she's a Palestinian. Her parents came into the United States, live in and around Detroit, Michigan. She got elected to the House of Representatives in a very contentious primary with many, many candidates, and she squeaked through. She's the one that has a map on her wall, probably still, that excluded the state of Israel. She's the one who has supported organizations that talk about the Palestinians owning the Middle East right up to the Mediterranean, which means Israel is obliterated. She's the one that keeps calling Israel an apartheid state, even though Israel has millions of Arab residents and citizens who serve on the courts, who serve in the Knesset, who get to vote, who get to participate in the economy. Show me one Jew in the Gaza Strip, or one Jew in Palestinian-held territories is free to do that, let alone safe. There aren't any. And so you and I, we know the way we were brought up, people of faith, some no faith, just common sense, but those of us who believe in the Judeo-Christian belief system, and there are what I'll call moderate Muslims in the United States, like Zuhdi Jasser and others, who served in the Navy, who serve in our military, and have a completely different view. Obviously, they've come through the religious reformation about humanity than the animals. They're not animals, the subhumans who are slaughtering Jews and have slaughtered Jews in the most atrocious ways imaginable. And they're so proud of it, they take videos. Most of those videos you've seen, the real-time videos, are the Hamas Nazis who are taking videos of their slaughter, of the women they've abused and kidnapped, of dragging bodies through the streets of Gaza City. So there is no comparison between the atrocities that are being committed against the Jews and self-defense that's being unleashed against the Palestinians in Gaza City. Israel is facing elimination and annihilation.
Want to see more? Sign up for Levin TV.